Standing in front of my bathroom mirror, I could hardly believe the reflection staring back at me. 40 pounds lighter, I finally looked the way everyone had always wanted me to look. But as I traced the outline of my new silhouette, a chill ran down my spine. This transformation that was supposed to make my family proud had somehow become their greatest fear. I thought they would celebrate their daughter's success, but instead, my achievement terrified them in ways I never could have imagined. Before I dive into this story, I would love to know where you are watching from, so please drop your location in the comments below. And if this story resonates with you, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Now let me take you back to 2 years ago when everything started to unravel. My name is Ivy, and at 26 years old, I had always been the bigger sister in every sense of the word. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I carried extra weight that seemed to define me in my family's eyes. After leaving my corporate job to care for my grandmother during her final battle with cancer, I found myself back in my childhood bedroom, freelancing as a graphic designer and struggling to find my footing in life. My younger sister, Sarah, was everything I was not. At 22, she stood tall and slender with the kind of effortless beauty that turned heads wherever she went. While I battled with inconsistent freelance income and self-doubt, Sarah had landed a coveted position at a prestigious marketing firm downtown. She had been dating David since their college days at University of Oregon, and everyone knew it was only a matter of time before they got engaged. I spent most of my days hunched over my laptop in the converted basement office, designing logos and websites for small businesses while trying to ignore the constant comparison that seemed to follow me everywhere. Family dinners were particularly difficult, with Sarah regaling us with stories of client presentations and romantic getaways, while I quietly picked at my food, feeling invisible. The announcement came on a crisp February evening. Sarah burst through the front door, her left hand extended to show off a stunning diamond ring that caught the light from every angle. David had proposed during a weekend trip to Cannon Beach, down on one knee, in the same spot where they had shared their first kiss 4 years earlier. The wedding was set for June, just 4 months away, and Sarah wanted me to be her maid of honor. I felt a mixture of joy and anxiety as she wrapped me in a tight hug, her excitement infectious, despite my own insecurities. Our parents, Linda and Robert, were over the moon, immediately launching into discussions about venues, guest lists, and photographers. David came from what they called a well-established family, and they wanted everything to be absolutely perfect. 3 months before the wedding, my parents asked me to join them in the living room for what they called an important conversation. I settled into the familiar worn armchair that had been my spot since childhood, sensing the weight of their words before they even spoke. My mother, Linda, cleared her throat nervously, while my father, Robert, shifted uncomfortably on the couch. "Honey, we need to talk about the wedding." Linda began, her voice gentle but firm. "We know how much this day means to Sarah, and we want everything to be absolutely beautiful." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "David's family is very particular about appearances. They come from a different social circle than we do, and we just want to make sure our family puts its best foot forward." The implication hung in the air like a heavy fog. Robert leaned forward, his hands clasped together. "What your mother is trying to say is that we think it might be good for you to lose some weight before the wedding. For the photos, you understand. We do not want you to feel uncomfortable or out of place." The words hit me like a physical blow, even though part of me had been expecting them. I had seen the way my parents' friends looked at family photos, their eyes lingering on my fuller figure before quickly shifting away. I had felt the subtle tension whenever we attended social events together, the way conversations seemed to pause when I entered a room. But instead of crumbling under the weight of their suggestion, I felt something unexpected stir within me. Maybe this was exactly the push I needed. Maybe this was my chance to finally become the person I had always wanted to be. When they offered to pay for a gym membership and personal trainer, I surprised them by accepting immediately. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with possibilities. I began researching nutrition plans and workout routines, watching transformation videos on YouTube until the early hours of the morning. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with pleasing clients or meeting deadlines. The next Monday morning, I walked through the doors of Peak Performance Gym with a determination I had never felt before. The intimidating rows of equipment and mirrors no longer seemed threatening, but full of potential. My personal trainer, Jake, a soft-spoken man in his 30s with an encouraging smile, listened patiently as I explained my goals. 12 weeks to lose weight for my sister's wedding. I told him, surprised by the confidence in my own voice. I want to look good in the photos, but more than that, I want to feel good about myself. Jake nodded thoughtfully and designed a program that combined strength training with cardio, along with a nutrition plan that focused on whole foods and proper portion control. Those first few weeks were brutal. My muscles ached in ways I had never experienced, and I found myself fighting cravings for the comfort foods that had been my companions through years of stress and disappointment. But something magical happened after the first month. I stepped on the scale to discover I had lost 15 pounds, and the excitement in my parents' voices when I shared the news filled me with a warmth I had been craving my entire life. Sarah squeezed my hand and told me how proud she was, while Linda immediately started talking about shopping for a new maid of honor dress. The encouragement fueled my determination, and I threw myself into the process with an intensity that surprised everyone, including myself. I began meal prepping on Sundays, filling containers with carefully measured portions of lean proteins, vegetables, and complex carbohydrates. I learned about macronutrients and started tracking everything I ate with the precision of a scientist. My freelance business began to thrive as my confidence grew. New clients seemed drawn to my increased energy and focus during video calls. I started posting progress photos on Instagram, documenting my journey with honest captions about the challenges and victories. The positive feedback from strangers on the internet became an unexpected source of motivation. By the time we reached the halfway point to the wedding, I had exceeded everyone's expectations by losing 30 pounds. But instead of stopping there, I found myself addicted to the process of transformation. Every compliment from a family member, every wow from an old friend who saw me at the grocery store, every notification from Instagram followers cheering me on pushed me to work even harder. Jake tried to suggest that maybe I should slow down, that rapid weight loss was not always sustainable, but I brushed off his concerns. I was finally becoming the person I had always dreamed of being. For the first time in my life, I was not the disappointment or the afterthought. I was the success story. The final month before Sarah's wedding became a whirlwind of dress fittings and last-minute preparations. I had lost 40 pounds total, 20 more than my original goal, and the maid of honor dress had to be altered twice to accommodate my shrinking frame. When I looked in the mirror during the final fitting, I barely recognized the confident woman staring back at me. My family's reactions during this period began to shift in subtle ways that I initially dismissed as concern for my well-being. Linda started making comments about needing to know when to stop and suggesting that I was taking things a bit too far. Sarah mentioned that David's groomsmen were asking about whether I was single, which should have been flattering, but somehow felt loaded with tension. The wedding day arrived with perfect spring weather and a sense of anticipation that had been building for months. As I helped Sarah get ready in the bridal suite, slipping into my perfectly fitted dress and applying makeup that highlighted my newly defined cheekbones, I felt like I was living in a dream. But as the day progressed, I began to notice that something was wrong. Guests kept approaching me with compliments that felt more like interrogations. "Ivy, you look absolutely stunning. How did you do it? I almost did not recognize you. You look like a completely different person." While Sarah smiled graciously during the ceremony, I caught glimpses of something in her expression that looked almost like resentment. During the reception, the attention that should have been focused on the beautiful bride kept shifting to me. Wedding guests approached our table to ask about my transformation, requesting before and after photos and begging for diet tips. Even David's parents, who had barely acknowledged my existence at previous family gatherings, suddenly wanted to know all about my journey. By the time we posed for family photos, the tension was palpable. The photographer kept positioning me in ways that highlighted my transformation, and I could feel my family's discomfort growing with each flash of the camera. When we finally sat down for dinner, Sarah leaned over and whispered, "I guess this is your day. After all, is not it?" The comment stung more than I expected, but I tried to brush it off as wedding stress. After all, was this not what they had wanted? Had I not done exactly what they asked me to do? But as the evening wore on, the congratulations began to feel more like accusations, and I found myself wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. The week following Sarah's wedding should have been a celebration of my success, but instead, it felt like the beginning of a nightmare I never could have imagined. What started as subtle comments quickly escalated into outright hostility from the very people who had pushed me toward this transformation in the first place. The first confrontation came just 3 days after the wedding. I was in the kitchen making my usual breakfast of egg whites and vegetables when Linda stormed in her face, flushed with an anger I had rarely seen. "I cannot believe what you did," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "You completely overshadowed your sister on her wedding day. Everyone was talking about you instead of the bride." I stared at her in disbelief, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. "I did exactly what you asked me to do," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You wanted me to lose weight for the wedding photos, remember? We never asked you to become obsessed," Robert chimed in from the doorway. "We never asked you to turn yourself into some kind of attention-seeking spectacle. You went too far, Ivy, way too far." The conversation that followed was a masterclass in gaslighting that left me questioning my own memories. They insisted they had never wanted me to lose as much weight as I did, claiming they had only suggested a little bit of weight loss for health reasons. According to their revised version of events, I had taken their innocent concern and twisted it into an unhealthy obsession that embarrassed the entire family. Over the following weeks, the psychological warfare intensified. Linda began making passive-aggressive comments about my eating habits, suggesting that my portions were unnaturally small and that I was developing an eating disorder. She would place my favorite desserts directly in front of me during meals, then criticize me for either eating them or refusing them. Sarah stopped inviting me to post-wedding gatherings with her new in-laws, claiming that I had changed too much and no longer fit in with the family dynamic. When I asked what she meant, she accused me of becoming too confident and showing off my new body in ways that made other people uncomfortable. The sabotage became more obvious as weeks turned into months. My parents would schedule family dinners at restaurants known for their indulgent menus, then make loud comments about my food choices in front of servers and other diners. They bought groceries specifically designed to tempt me, filling the house with the processed snacks and fast food that I had worked so hard to eliminate from my diet. Robert began questioning the time I spent at the gym, suggesting that my dedication to fitness was unnatural for a woman and that I was losing my femininity. He made jokes about my muscle tone that felt more like insults, calling me too skinny one day and too muscular the next, as if no version of my new body would ever be acceptable. The breaking point came during a family dinner 2 months after the wedding. David and his parents had been invited to celebrate Sarah's promotion at work, and I thought it might be an opportunity to show that our family could function normally despite the recent tension. I dressed conservatively and spoke only when spoken to, trying my best to blend into the background. But when David's mother, Margaret, complimented my appearance and asked about my fitness routine, Linda seized the opportunity to humiliate me in front of everyone. "Oh, Ivy has been struggling with some disordered eating lately," she announced to the entire table. "We are very concerned about her relationship with food and exercise. We think she might need professional help." The room fell silent as every pair of eyes turned to me. Margaret looked confused and embarrassed, while David shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Sarah stared down at her plate, refusing to meet my gaze. I felt my face burning with shame and rage as I realized that my own mother had just publicly diagnosed me with a mental illness to cover her own discomfort with my success. "That is not true," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I am healthier now than I have ever been in my life." "Denial is part of the disorder, honey," Linda replied with fake concern dripping from her voice. "We just want what is best for you." As the evening progressed, I listened to my family paint a picture of a daughter who had lost control, who had taken an innocent suggestion and warped it into something dangerous and obsessive. They spoke about me as if I was not sitting right there, describing my transformation as a cautionary tale rather than an achievement. But it was Margaret's parting comment that finally opened my eyes to the truth. As she gathered her purse to leave, she turned to Linda and said, "It really is such a shame that Ivy was not this beautiful during the wedding photos. She could have been a model bridesmaid." The irony was not lost on me. The very people who had been criticizing my appearance just months earlier were now lamenting that I had not looked this good sooner. In that moment, I realized that my family's problem was not with my weight loss or my health habits. Their problem was that I had succeeded beyond their expectations, and my success made them uncomfortable in ways they could not articulate. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and came to a painful but liberating conclusion. My family had never wanted me to succeed. They had wanted me to improve just enough to avoid embarrassing them, but not so much that I would outshine anyone else. They wanted me to be acceptable, not exceptional. They wanted me to be grateful for their conditional love, not confident enough to question whether I deserved better. For the first time in my 26 years, I began to plan my escape from the toxic environment that had shaped my self-worth for far too long. I was done being their project, their disappointment, or their scapegoat. It was time to build a life where my value was not determined by how much space I took up or how much attention I attracted. The decision to leave my family home was not made lightly, but once I committed to the plan, everything fell into place with surprising clarity. I had been saving money from my freelance work throughout my weight loss journey, and the confidence I had gained during my transformation had led to better paying clients and more consistent income. I found a small one-bedroom apartment across town in a neighborhood filled with young professionals and college students. The space was modest, but bright with large windows that faced east to catch the morning sun. For the first time in my adult life, I would be completely responsible for my own space, my own choices, and my own happiness. The conversation with my parents about moving out was as difficult as I expected. Linda cried and accused me of abandoning the family during a difficult time, while Robert questioned whether I was mentally stable enough to live independently. They painted my decision as another symptom of my supposed eating disorder, suggesting that I was isolating myself because of my unhealthy obsession with fitness and appearance. But I had been preparing for their objections, and I responded with a calm clarity that surprised even myself. I am 26 years old, I told them. I have been supporting myself financially for over a year, and I have proven that I can make responsible decisions about my health and my career. This is not about running away from anything. This is about running toward the life I want to build. The move itself was liberating in ways I had not anticipated. As I unpacked boxes in my new apartment surrounded by furniture I had chosen and decorations that reflected my taste, rather than family compromises, I felt a sense of ownership over my life that had been missing for far too long. I also made the decision to seek professional help, not because I believed my family's accusations about disordered eating, but because I recognized that years of emotional manipulation had left scars that needed attention. My therapist, Dr. Amanda Russell, helped me understand that my family's reaction to my success was actually quite common in dysfunctional family systems. When someone changes the dynamic by refusing to play their assigned role, it threatens the entire family structure, she explained during one of our early sessions. Your role was to be the less successful daughter, the one who made everyone else feel better about themselves by comparison. When you stepped out of that role, you forced them to confront some uncomfortable truths about their own behavior. Through therapy, I began to understand that my weight had never really been about my health or my appearance. It had been a convenient way for my family to maintain control over my self-esteem and my place within their hierarchy. By losing weight and gaining confidence, I had inadvertently challenged their power over me, and they were fighting back the only way they knew how. Meanwhile, my professional life continued to flourish in ways I had never imagined possible. The confidence and discipline I had developed through my fitness journey translated directly into my work ethic and client relationships. I began specializing in branding for wellness companies, drawing on my own transformation experience to create authentic marketing materials that resonated with audiences. Within 6 months of moving out, I had launched my own online coaching business, helping other women navigate their own health and fitness journeys. The irony was not lost on me that the very transformation my family now criticized had become the foundation for a thriving business that brought me both financial independence and personal fulfillment. My social media following had grown to nearly 10,000 people, all drawn to my honest approach to discussing body image, family dynamics, and personal growth. I shared not just workout videos and healthy recipes, but also vulnerable posts about overcoming emotional eating, dealing with family criticism, and learning to value yourself independently of other people's opinions. The most difficult conversation came 8 months after I moved out, when my parents demanded that I come home for Sarah's first wedding anniversary celebration. They framed it as a family obligation, insisting that my absence would be noticed and embarrassing for Sarah and David. When I declined the invitation, Linda showed up at my apartment unannounced, alternating between tears and anger as she tried to guilt me into compliance. "You are tearing this family apart," she sobbed. "Sarah misses you. We all miss you. Why cannot you just come home and be part of the family again?" I looked at this woman who had given birth to me, who had fed me and clothed me and claimed to love me, and I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. "I am not tearing anything apart," I said gently. "I am simply refusing to participate in a dynamic that requires me to diminish myself so that everyone else can feel comfortable." "But we are your family," she insisted. "Family is supposed to stick together no matter what. Family is supposed to support each other's growth and celebrate each other's successes," I replied. "Family is supposed to love unconditionally, not just when someone fits into the role you have assigned them. I am still your daughter, and I still love you, but I will not come back until you can acknowledge that your treatment of me was wrong and commit to changing it." Linda left that day without the reconciliation she had come for, and I felt both heartbroken and empowered. Setting boundaries with people you love is never easy, but it was necessary for my continued growth and healing. To my surprise, it was Sarah who eventually reached out to rebuild our relationship. She appeared at my apartment on a rainy Tuesday evening, looking tired and older than her 23 years. Without the buffer of our parents' presence, we were able to have the honest conversation that had been years in the making. "I owe you an apology," she said, settling onto my couch with a cup of the herbal tea I offered. "I was jealous of your transformation, and instead of dealing with those feelings in a healthy way, I let Mom and Dad turn me against you. That was wrong, and I am sorry." We talked for hours that night, peeling back years of sibling rivalry and family dysfunction to find the genuine love that had always existed beneath the surface. Sarah admitted that she had always felt pressure to be the perfect daughter, and my success had threatened her position in ways that scared her. She also revealed that David had been asking questions about my transformation that made her feel insecure about her own body and lifestyle. Our relationship began to heal, slowly, built on a foundation of honesty rather than family obligation. Sarah started coming to my apartment for sisters' dinners, where we could talk freely without the toxic dynamic that seemed to emerge whenever our parents were present. She even began working out with me occasionally, not to lose weight, but to build strength and confidence. My parents, however, remained resistant to change. They continued to insist that I was the problem, that my selfishness was destroying the family unity they had worked so hard to maintain. They refused to acknowledge their role in my decision to distance myself, instead painting themselves as victims of an ungrateful daughter who had abandoned them in their time of need. The final test came when I met Jacob, a fellow entrepreneur who owned a small chain of healthy, fast casual restaurants. He was kind, supportive, and completely uninterested in changing anything about me. When I eventually introduced him to my family, their reaction confirmed everything I had come to understand about their priorities. Linda spent the entire dinner asking Jacob pointed questions about whether he was concerned about my eating habits and obsession with exercise. Robert made several comments about how I used to be more fun before I became so serious about health stuff. They seemed determined to convince this wonderful man that I was damaged goods, that my transformation was a red flag rather than an achievement. But Jacob saw through their manipulation immediately. Later that evening, he told me, "I have never met a more centered, confident, and genuinely happy person than you. If they cannot see how amazing you are, that says everything about them and nothing about you." 1 year after leaving my family home, I stood in my apartment bathroom, looking at the same reflection that had started this entire journey. But this time, I was not just seeing a woman who had lost 40 pounds. I was seeing someone who had learned to value herself independently of other people's opinions, someone who had built a successful business based on helping others, someone who had found love with a partner who celebrated her strength rather than trying to diminish it. The transformation I was most proud of was not visible in any before and after photo. It was the internal shift from seeking validation to providing it for myself, from trying to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be, to creating my own definition of success and happiness. My relationship with my parents remains complicated and limited. They still refuse to acknowledge that their treatment of me was inappropriate, instead maintaining that they were only trying to help and that I have overreacted to their concern. I have accepted that they may never be capable of the kind of growth and self-reflection that would allow us to have a healthy relationship. But I have also learned that forgiveness does not require reconciliation, and that loving someone does not mean accepting toxic behavior. I can appreciate the positive aspects of my childhood while also acknowledging the harm that was done. I can feel grateful for the lessons I learned while also setting boundaries to protect my continued growth. Today, my life is fuller and more authentic than I ever imagined possible. My coaching business has helped hundreds of women transform not just their bodies, but their relationships with themselves. I have a partner who loves me for my mind, my heart, and my spirit, not just my appearance. I have rebuilt my relationship with Sarah based on mutual respect and genuine affection. Most importantly, I have learned that true transformation is not about changing yourself to meet other people's expectations. It is about discovering who you really are when you strip away all the roles and responsibilities that others have placed on you. It is about building a life that reflects your values, your dreams, and your authentic self. When I look in the mirror now, I do not just see someone who lost 40 pounds. I see someone who gained something infinitely more valuable, the unshakable knowledge that I am worthy of love, respect, and celebration exactly as I am. And that transformation will last a lifetime. So if you have found value in my story, please let me know in the comments below what part resonated most with you. Have you ever experienced family members trying to hold you back when you started succeeding? How did you handle toxic reactions to positive changes in your life? Your experiences could help someone else who might be going through something similar. Please hit that like button if this story touched your heart. Subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share this video with anyone who might need to hear that they are worthy of unconditional love and support. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that your transformation story is just as valid and important as anyone else's. I wish you all the courage to become exactly who you are meant to be.